Hi, my name is EJ Massa. Vikings blood. Is that gonna happen every time I say it? Vikings blood. I guess so. Anyways, sounds epic, right? Well, it's just a cute name for cherry mead. Honey wine flavored with cherry juice. And I'll make some for you today. Well, not really today because I filmed the B-roll months ago, but well, let's just get into it.
I stole this recipe from city-studding Brews, much like the Vikings pillaged all of Europe. So the recipe is authentically Viking.
I've made a traditional mead. I've made an experimental holiday spruce mead, which you would have saw if you saw the holiday episode. But this is really my favorite mead I've made so far, especially as an everyday drinking wine, like a table red. So I thought it would be useful to just go over all the steps again, since it's my favorite, so you can make it yourself.
You can't make Viking's blood without blood, and by that I mean cherry juice. This Tart Organic Full Circle one is the one I'm using. It's basically the store brand organic line that my local grocery store carries. I've also had good results from the Walmart Great Value Organic Tart Cherry Juice from other batches I've done.
I use tart cherry juice instead of a sweet cherry juice because, as we all know, Vikings had very tart blood. It's a fact, and I'd know.
The second main ingredient is honey, and I got locally sourced honey with a very trademark infringing mascot on it.
Did you say honey and nuts?
I've made Vikings blood before, but I use store-bought honey, which is a blend of honeys from a bunch of weird countries that probably have weird bees. Just weird bees. So I'll be testing whether this local honey has any flavor benefits over that store brand blend honey.
Now I'm gonna make a tannin tea to boost the complexity of this brew. To start, I'll be using the zest of half a lemon. Filled a saucepan with a cup of water, threw in the lemon zest, some coarsely chopped raisin, and a black tea bag. Brought it to a boil and turned off the heat to let that steep for 15 minutes.
Why am I making this tea? Well, since I'm not using fresh cherries or whole fruit cherries, and I'm using off-the-shelf juice, I need to add some of that complexity back in that the skins would normally impart. And I want to add that complexity back into the juice. This also adds nutrients that the yeast will use as food during the fermentation.
Made sure to strain out that tea and let it cool down a bit. Got my 1-gallon carboy on a zeroed out digital scale, poured in 2 pounds of that local honey, poured in that tannin tea that has been cooled down a bit so it wouldn't kill the yeast. Then I poured in 1 46 fluid ounce bottle of tart cherry juice and half a packet of Red Star Premier Blanc yeast, which I'm using because I have it. And it seems to work well. Put on a cap and gave the jug a good shaky shake. Shook it until the honey on the bottom seemed dissolved. Added the second bottle of cherry juice, gave it another shake. Then it's time to get out the trusty turkey baster and fill up a graduated cylinder so that I can take a specific gravity reading.
Want to know the difference between a regular cylinder and a graduated cylinder? Well, one has a college degree. Shut up! I'm perfect.
The reading on the hydrometer is 1.116, which is a little higher than I normally like, but I think I'll take it. Might be nice to have a slightly sweeter mead.
Remember, this is a reading of how much sugar is in the must, so you want to take a specific gravity reading with a hydrometer, especially because all honey is different. There's different amounts of sugar in it. So it's good to see where you are and you can adjust. And further down the line, you can see how much fermentation has occurred, and you can tell really well where you went wrong. Unlike my life, where I have no idea where I went wrong.
Poured that yeasty juice back in and dried out the bunghole. It's important to dry out your bungholes, ladies and gentlemen. Now the airlock and bung snugly fit into place without slipping out, and this will ferment in my spooky basement for approximately a month or so. This is where the Viking magic happens. A month later, the activity has died down and it's time to take another reading. And it looks like we have a final gravity of 1.012, which means there's a little sweetness left in there, which I'm okay with. Using this handy formula, that gives us a 13.65% alcohol, which is not too shabby at all. I set some of that aside for tasting, and I racked the mead off the sediment into a new container, and all the equipment I use will be in the description below. I added the lid with the airlock to essentially cold crash, let the rest of the sediment settle to the bottom before bottling. Just left it there for a week. For now, I'll taste my sample I set aside to see how it turned out.
Let's see how it is on the nose. It smells like cherry juice and a little booze. Shocking. We'll taste. Wow. One thing is I made this before, and last time I just used store brand honey, and this time the raw honey adds such a more smooth flavor. It's like there's no roughness. It's almost like a dark cherry flavor on the back end, and it's complex, it's deep, it is interesting to note that there really isn't much honey flavor. It's really all cherry and that deep, complex flavor which is mixed in with the cherry, and that gives it this warmth underneath. Wow.
After a week of cold crashing, I bottled it, and I mostly brought it to parties and gave them away as presents, and everyone remarked how good it was, and how much it was like a real wine, not homebrewy. They'd actually buy it from a store.
This is definitely something I'd make in larger batches or just give as a gift. One thing coming up is Airjo sent me a barrel to age mead in, so I think I'm going to create a traditional mead and age it in that barrel. I know, seriously, Airjo sent me something other than a grill. Crazy. Until next time, bye.